set of questions in the Aaron Hernandez case. A Miami Dolphins player served with a subpoena at Gillette Stadium right after Sunday's game. We now know that player served Mike Pouncey, a longtime friend of Aaron Hernandez, going back to their college days.
We also know that this has to do with an investigation into gun trafficking, and we're joined now by UNH law professor, Sports Illustrated columnist Michael McCann. Michael, great article yesterday with some pretty explosive stuff in there from you, saying that this might not just be Aaron Hernandez and Mike Pouncey. This could be much deeper than that.
That's right, Maria, and thank you for the nice words. This could be a broader conspiracy than just Aaron Hernandez when it comes to the issues of guns. We know that Hernandez has been charged with murder, which has understandably attracted all of the headlines, but he also faces other charges for weapons and guns. It's possible that his involvement with guns could end up taking a more prominent role in the story and in the prosecution, especially because there are still questions about the murder charges. For instance, the firearm that was used to kill Odin Lloyd still hasn't been found, and there are issues as to the witnesses and their recollection, whether they contradict each other, whether they may have been on drugs. It could turn out that guns end up being a much bigger part of the story.
But we also have separate information here at Fox 25, because we've been covering the Aaron Hernandez case extensively, as you know, that this could be a separate investigation from all of that involving other NFL players.
That's right, Maria. It's possible that it's not just Aaron Hernandez, that at the very least Mike Pouncey has been implicated as knowing something about a potential interstate gun sale. And maybe other players are involved too. We don't know. But I think this is something that certainly has to trouble the league and also trouble the Players Association. That it isn't just about the league itself, it's the union that represents players. How are players behaving? We know that the league has been ridiculed, and I think on some level deservedly so, for the health of players and real issues as to retired players. But maybe it's bigger than that. Maybe the issues go beyond health into criminal aspects, and it could end up being a huge story.
And we have the Pouncey brothers. Mike Pouncey getting served with a subpoena on Sunday. Now the brother is coming to Foxborough this coming Sunday.
Well, he's expected. He's injured, though. We're not sure if he's going to be
possibly being there with the Steelers. Do you think there could be another subpoena served?
It's possible. I think if I were his lawyer, I would discourage him from showing up. Because subpoenas are only valid in the state that they're issued. Although you can get a subpoena outside of the state, there's a separate process involved. I would be surprised if he shows up. He's injured. He's out for the year. I would be very surprised. He could just say, well, I'm injured, so I'm not traveling with the team. And now this is really an extra reason not to show up in Foxborough.
I want to go through some of the things that you have in your article here. The place and the timing was intentional. Subpoenas are only valid within the issuing state. The Massachusetts State Police waited for Pouncey, who practiced with his Dolphins teammates last week, to appear in Massachusetts. And in a place where they could be handed papers, they likely waited after the game to avoid criticism that it would impact its outcome. Word that Bob Kraft had no idea that this was happening as well. And you also make it very clear Pouncey has not been charged with a crime, and we should reiterate that here as well. Law enforcement regard him as a material witness, and that his knowledge may help prosecutors advance their case against Hernandez, who, in addition to these first-degree murder charges, he's also facing these gun charges as well. So certainly there's so many layers to this Aaron Hernandez story, where there is an involvement, as we've reported here, in a 2012 murder. He's charged with murder, the murder of Odin Lloyd, and now we have this gun trafficking case involving an old friend of his, and Aaron Hernandez. These guys go back a long time to the University of Florida. Let's talk about that.
That's right. They played together at the University of Florida. Hernandez played with both Pouncey brothers there, and he was said to have been close friends of them. And of course, they went on to play in the NFL together. And I think this signals the fact that, Hernandez has been portrayed as this sort of renegade person that operated outside of the NFL world and lived this double life. Well, maybe it wasn't as outside as it's been led to believe. Maybe it was more integrated with other players. Again, we don't know, and I think it's worth as you mentioned, Maria, no one's been charged with anything else. All we know is that Mike Pouncey is considered to have knowledge about an interstate gun trafficking issue. His involvement may not be criminal. His involvement may be nothing. He may know nothing. But the bigger issue to me is that this is, to me, sounding more and more like an NFL issue than just an Aaron Hernandez issue.
And we had the Pouncey brothers with Aaron Hernandez just back in April, all hanging out in Vegas. We've seen that picture online. So that close relationship maintained even to this day, presumably. I want to ask you, though, about gun trafficking. When we talk about that, help explain that to the viewers. I mean, I know the authorities aren't releasing a lot of information about that, but what are we potentially talking about here?
Well, there are two types of gun trafficking issues that could be at play. One is disassembling the guns, removing any identifying characteristics of them, including their serial numbers, reassembling and then selling. The other type is known as straw purchasing, where the guns, you just buy guns that are legal and then sell them to those who lack a license to buy them. That's the more classic case of gun trafficking. We don't know which is implicated here or if there's some combination of the two, but it's interesting that it could take different directions, and the manner in which the gun trafficking occurred, if it did occur, could certainly go outside of Massachusetts. We know that law enforcement in Florida, New York, and Massachusetts are all involved. This, to me, sounds like an East Coast thing.
And a follow-up to that, is this a federal grand jury investigation? Is it a state investigation? What can we read into it, knowing that it was Massachusetts State Police that served that subpoena?
So, Mike, it is a state investigation at this point, although it certainly sounds like it has federal qualities. It has interstate aspects to it in terms of going outside of Massachusetts. It appears right now that federal law enforcement are letting Massachusetts run the show, but this could turn out to be a federal case as well.
Why New York? Do we have any idea? Why is that included?
We don't. We know that that's one state that appears to be looking into this story. It's possible that some of the transportation occurred through New York. You know, there are also issues of bank records. Where are the banks located? Where or emails sent, issues like that.
And they're looking at that.
They are.
That's what you reported in your article. UNH law professor, Sports Illustrated columnist. Great stuff. Michael McCann, thank you so much. We really appreciated your expertise on this.
Thanks, Mike. Thank you for having me on.
Good job.
Appreciate
Thank you. So, as you know, there are